smoking a cigarette. And these two guys with uniforms on, the war was on, you know, and Mill was in the service, came up to us in the picnic bench and said, "Can we join you in a cigarette?" So we said sure or something, I don't know. We sat down and we just talked, you know, and then we went to, it was like a little ballroom dancing place, you know, and had a couple of dances there. And then Mill was the one that took to me, you know, and he saw me home, and I lived in Astoria, Long Island then, and on Asbury Park is miles away from where I lived, and I didn't even, you know, I didn't really want him to take me home because, I mean, we were there on vacation, you know. I wasn't gonna go home yet, you know. But anyway, he finally ended up coming to my house and meeting my mother and sister, Arlette, my sister. It's the only two kids we had. Oh, we had Cecilia too. Cecilia was my mother's second husband, which they had a child with, and that's Cecilia, who lives in California now, and she's a lot of fun. Anyway, Mill was so taken with me, I guess, that he made a date with me. He took me home and then had to get back on the train and go back to where he's stationed, you know. He was in the service, he had a uniform on and everything. And so we made a date, you know, to see each other again. And of course he had to come up to the, it's not Coney Island, it's Asbury Park was the name of the place. It was a big boardwalk with benches along the edge with a fence, you know, and then you're looking at the ocean and all the waves coming in and everything. Some people are swimming, some are not, you know, some are just on the beach. And we went dancing that night. Mill could never really dance very well.
Neither can Chris.
Oh, can't he?
No, he waddles.
Oh. So I sort of was leading him around. Which I did with anybody who couldn't dance, you know. The only one that really could dance was my sister's husband, who she finally married, Tom Tiora.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was a good dancer. I'd love to dance with him. So anyway, things happened little by little. He wanted to see me again, and he knew where I lived, and Mill did. But he was stationed in South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
At the time. But he would get off like a week or whatever it was, and he'd come up to see me. Mill did. My mother liked him real well.
So how long did y'all date before you got married?
How long did what?
How long did you date before you got married?
Well, see, I lived in Astoria, and he lived in South Carolina or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then he got stationed to California to another, you know, military base, because he was in the service. He was in He was a radio operator on a bomber,
Oh.
you know, in the war.
What branch was that? Air Force?
Army Air Corps
Army.
is what he was. 8th Army Air Corps or something like that is what he was.
Mhm.
So then when he got transferred to the Army Air Corps base in California, of course I couldn't see him anymore
Hmm.
because I lived in New York, you know, Astoria, Long Island. So we kept writing letters, and finally, I guess he asked me to marry him, and I was nuts over him.
Aw.
So I had to make plans to go to California to get married because he couldn't get off
Mhm.
of the service, you know. So my mother and my aunt and uncle and I took Santa Fe all the way.
Was that the train?
Santa Fe is a train.
Yeah.
And it stopped in Chicago, is where Mill lived with
Mm.
his family, you know. So I had to go to where Mill lived. I met his family, you know, his mother and his two sisters he had and a mother. No husbands, no. So I was there a couple of days and
Was he there or in California?
he came to Chicago.
Okay.
And so that's when I went there to meet the family and everything. And then I went back home and we had planned then to get married. And I was gonna have to go to California to get married because he couldn't get any more time off. He couldn't get time off, you know.
Mhm.
So that's the way it happened. We made plans to get married in California and took the damn train, Santa Fe all the way.
Mm. How long of a train ride was that?
And my sister, and my mother, and my aunt, and her husband, my aunt and uncle, and my mother took the train all the way to California with me.
Oh.
We stopped in Chicago and got church. They give you a permission to get married, you know.
Like a marriage license or something?
Huh?
A marriage license?
Yeah. Well, it's not a license. It's that the church is letting you get married. You know?
Okay.
It's the church, you know.
Right.
And I was Catholic, strict Catholic.
Mhm.
So anyway.
So how long was that from the time y'all met till you got married? You think?
It was a good year anyway, I would think.
Okay.
I remember. I don't remember.
How old were you when you got married?
I got married in California.
How old were you?
My mother and my aunt and uncle, we took the train to California. We
Mhm.
stopped in Chicago to get the licenses from the church. You have to get it wherever your church is, you know.
Mhm.
We stopped in Chicago. Well, it was Chicago was the big town. I don't remember where they lived.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had to go to their church and get a certificate of some kind, permission to get married, you know.
Mhm.
So kept going to California, and I stayed with, my mother lived in California already. She had moved there.
Oh, okay.
She had an aunt there. An aunt and a great aunt or something, real old woman.
Do you remember how old you were when you got married?
I was 21.
21. And how old was Poppy?
Oh, he was 6 or 7 years older than I am.
Ooh. You married an older man.
Yeah, I did. He was so in love with me. Oh, God.
That's sweet.
Such a good man.
Yeah.
He was a wonderful husband.
I never got to meet him, but I've seen videos, and I think Chris is a lot like him, just from what y'all said.
Oh, God. Chris loved him. When he was a little kid, you know. Jean was having problems with Jerry, the guy she had married. Well, my aunt and uncle and I took a train all the way to California. We stayed, I have an aunt that lived in California, in Los Angeles. And so we stayed, I stayed at her house until I got married. My aunt made my wedding gown.
Oh, wow.
She's a dressmaker in the dressmaking section of New York. A very good seamstress.
Yeah.
I had a beautiful wedding gown. With a big tail.
Aw.
And then she took the dress and made it over for my sister, Arlette.
Oh, wow.
Changed the whole top part of it and everything, you know. Didn't look like the same gown.
Was Arlette the oldest?
She was older. She got married after I,
Okay.
to Tom.
Yeah.
It was a whole, I just gave you a whole history of
I love it.
of us.
Love it.
Yeah. And I had a wonderful husband. Nobody could beat him. I was very lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young like that, you don't know. You don't know when you meet somebody how it's going to be or anything, you know. But if you care enough for a person, you know, you make it work.
That's right. That's right. That was the same for Chris and I. Like, my parents divorced, and so when Chris and I, we wanted to make sure, because it was for keeps, you know, we didn't want to. It's not always easy, but you're right. When you love somebody, you just stick with it.
Yeah. It's
a choice.
Those days were pretty hard to absorb, you know, as part of your life, you know. You didn't know actually what you were doing, you know. you were afraid of, you know, thinking of living with some man that you never even knew or anything, you know.
Yeah.
But after knowing him quite a while, knew him a while before I married him, and it's been a good wedding. I mean, we had a good marriage.
Yeah.
And I had 2 kids. But he was a wonderful person. Up here.
Yeah.
Bob
Handsome too.
Huh?
Handsome.
Yeah, Bob looks like it, don't he?
A little bit, yeah.
He looked a lot like Bob. I mean, Bob looks a lot like he did.
Yeah. And you and Jean look
Well,
a lot
he was
alike.
quite a few years older than I.
Yeah.
I think he was about 6 or 7 years older than
Yeah.
I was. Well, I was 20 when I got married.